Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the CFL Dynasty League podcast. I'm your host and commissioner, Steve, and week one is in the books. We are off and running. What a great week one it was. The scoring was absolute dog crap, but we still had some exciting matches across the board, some surprises, and some not so surprising results. We also had our first round of pool picks. There were some TD winners and losers. There were also some losers, and we'll go through our pools updates a little later in the episode as well. We're going to bring back the commish locks since the betting in this league outside of fantasy football is out of control, which I love. So happy to bring back the commish locks again this year. We'll, of course, get into week two action. It's cross-division week and lots to talk about there. A couple other things scattered throughout the pod. Thanks again for taking the time to listen. But first things first, let's get into our fantasy review. Well, we'll start off with our game of the week. I thought this would be a doozy. It was James taking on the Italian Stallions, and there were a lot of points scored. We weren't really disappointed. Well, unless you were James, we were disappointed. But there were, like I said, points scored across the board. I mean, it doesn't get much better than a Saquon Barkley 32-point performance. Stu and the Italian Stallions took the lead early in this one. James did mount a valiant comeback, but the final score turned out 167.5 to 159.39. It was almost to the point where the decimals mattered. The big standouts aside from Barkley were the quarterback scoring. James and Anthony Richardson putting up 30 points. For the time being, until he gets hurt, he may be the QB1. And I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit saying that. Dak did not have a $240 million game. 16 points. Justin Fields put up that much too. So if we're looking at why my pick, James, to win this match did not come through, I think we can look at Dak putting up a paltry 15. Dalton Kincaid with 2 points. Also kind of letting James down a little bit. On the other hand, though, Stu had Stafford and Tua with 25 each. Achane was good. Joe Mixon was amazing, and that was enough to carry through. Garrett Wilson, another dud, but it doesn't matter. Stu coming out on top, 1-0. James, unfortunately, in the hole after week one to start, but lots of season left. Moving on to our next game, this was the Lunch King title. Although, as it turns out, there was not a lunch bet on this game. I was really disappointed. I had the BK Whopper taking down the Gronks. It was, I think, the only pick I got right, aside from the free space Hildy winning against Hanging with Hernandez, but more on that later. BK Whopper, 164. Gronks, 127 even. Really not close. You'll hear the rhetoric in the chat about lots of time left. Oh, it's only week one. I didn't know the season was over after the first week, et cetera, et cetera. But I think in reality, this was a statement win in the USA division. And we'll see how Gronks can climb out of this early hole. Lots of runway left is correct, but we'll see how much longer we can be saying that. The stars of this one, well, Josh Allen, 38 points. The game didn't start good, but obviously Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things, and that pretty much put BK Whopper over the line. It was a quick start by the Gronks with Lamar Jackson 30 points on Thursday, but it didn't last, and once Khan and Raheem took the lead, they didn't relinquish it. Jordan Love, the real news coming out of this one, How long is he going to be on the shelf? I think he avoided IR at the time of this recording, so I don't think you're going to get another 30 points out of Jaden Reed this week. But and Stephon Diggs putting up 18 as well. I mean, there might have been some inflated numbers for the BK Whopper this week. But aside from Lamar and Tyreek doing Tyreek things, the Gronks need a little more from Brees, a little more from Kyler, a little more, especially from Jonathan Taylor. And they are in even tougher now with Puka on the shelves. So lots of runway left. Yes, the season is not over after week 1. Yes, but these injuries are going to mount and pile up, and both teams might be in trouble long term. Last matchup of the American division. This was the free space. It was Hildy beating Hanging with Hernandez. And I have to point out that without 22 points from Blake Group from Hildy, the kicker, he actually only wins by 5. Hanging with Hernandez had 66 points, and Hildy ended up with 91. But you take those 22 points away, and this was less than a 5-point spread. So, Will Levis, ouch. Caleb Williams, ouch. That must have been a painful game for Hildy to watch. Lone bright spot of the roster was Pacheco, but we'll see if Jamar Chase can bounce back. DJ Moore, hopefully brighter things are in store for the Bears as well. Hanging with Hernandez, I'm going to read out the points here, and you tell me what position on the roster this was. So it was 11, 8, 0, 8, 0, 10, 0.9, 8.5, 1, and 17. Yeah, that was in order from QBs to kickers. That's right. Their highest scoring player by almost 7 points was their kicker. Woof, woof, woof. But yes, the 5th-round picks will definitely have them in a competitive mode next year. Hanging with Hernandez, 0-1 on their way to a winless season. Hildy, 1-0 thanks to his kicker. Moving into the Canadian division, this was a shocker, not just because both teams put up so little points, but also because kind of the outcome. It was Mitch working from Mahomes taking on White Russian, and in what was almost the lowest scoring game of the week, we had Mitch edging White Russian still by 20 points, but the total was 121 to 101. Not a lot going on here. And again, Mitch really buoyed by 31 points from Derek Carr. Mahomes only 20. Jacobs, kind of a soft performance too, under 12. Ken Walker, 17, but could he be hurt? And another astonishing kicker matchup here. 21 points from Brandon Aubrey for Mitch, 25 points from Jake Moody for Chris. Like, are you kidding me? And you guys didn't want kickers in this league? You're welcome. Another reason why this is the best dynasty league in the world. Chris, so 100 points. You got 25 from your kicker. You got 20 from Stevenson, and you get 22 from Gino. There's not a lot of other points on this roster, man. Daniel Jones, 1.4. Javonte is cooked. Amari Cooper, well, he might have a new quarterback soon. DK Metcalf, Dallas Goedert, hopefully brighter days ahead. But when the dust settled, Mitch off to a 1-0 start. Chris and the White Russian 0-1. Next matchup was the Banditos against our reigning champ, Nav, another one that didn't really go the way it should have. And in fact, this was the second lowest scoring game of the week. Embarrassing, you guys. We had Goff and Purdy against Stroud and Hurts, and it just barely turned into a win. In fact, Jordan Mason filling in admirably for McCaffrey is really what tilted this in Nav's favor. Otherwise, it was a lot closer than it looked. But CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, not putting up the points that the Banditos want. And, on the other side, Evan Ingram, 1.5, St. Brown, 2, Olave, 2, A.J. Brown doing A.J. Brown things. But, Nav just squeaking by it's going to be really, really hard to defend the title with only 130 points a week. Last but certainly not least, this was a very close match as well. It was the captains taking on Ev. Ev really ran away with it on Sunday late and then into the Monday night game, winning 139 to 115. But a good performance from the captain's team, buoyed by Baker Mayfield's 42 league leading 42 points from the QB position. And well, really, that was about it. Justin Fields is going to get another crack, and we did realize that Nico Collins is him for all intent and purposes. But some brighter days ahead for the captains. That receiver room is loaded. Ev leaning on Chris Godwin and Jaden Daniels. Like, you want to talk about the best rookie performance of week one. I know AR had the big game as well, but basically still a rookie. But Jaden Daniels' first game in the league, and he comes out on fire. David Montgomery, like I mentioned, just sealing away the victory for Ev with 15 points there as well. So, captains 0-1, but still on my way to the playoffs, boys. Do not forget that. Ev, good start, 1-0, and that was it for our fantasy review. Time to go through the Comish's picks, and it was a pretty short list. The Commish is now 2-4 on the season. We had James winning. That didn't work out. We did get BK beating the Gronks and Hildy beating Hanging with Hernandez, but Mitch taking the win. Nav, Ev, against my better judgment, boys, the Commish is 2-4, and we'll be looking to improve on that pick record this season. Next up on the podcast this week, we're going to run through a brief highlight of the waivers section and go through our TD pool picks, loser picks, and we'll check in on the bad beat. It almost was given out in week one, but more to come here on the Dynasty podcast for the CFL Dynasty League. All right, and welcome back. Time to switch focus here a little bit before we get into next week's games. The standings, well, they're pretty straightforward after week one, so I thought we'd take a look at the power rankings instead to make things a little bit more interesting. And in first place, obviously at 1-0 with a total points for of 167 to lead the week was the Italian Stallions, also getting a 48-point spike from the bench, which was actually up there in the highest efficiency rating. Stu hitting a 96% on his starting points versus bench points. So shout out to Stu. But in a close second was BK Waparo, 164 points with a slightly higher efficiency rating, but not quite enough to take the first place spot. Only 21 points coming from the bench, 97.9% efficiency for Khan and Raheem. And third place, James, tough loss to start the season, but anchored by the fact that you took the third highest points for in the week. Good for third in the power rankings. Ev and Nav and working from Mahomes are other winners there to round out the top six of the power rankings. But Mitch, 105 points on the bench, 121 in the starting lineup. That's 76.7% efficiency rating. Got to work on that. Bottom half of the league, Gronks, the Captains, and the Banditos, interesting enough, all winless teams, but still above our 1-0 Hildy, who takes third last with 91 points, good for second last as far as points for total go. White Russian and, of course, Hanging with Hernandez, filling out the power rankings. A little more shake-up to come in week two, I'm sure, and I, for one, cannot wait for it. Let's go through and have a look at our pools right now. So to start off, well, we have our perfect season back-to-back champion pool, and we're going to wait again to see if someone can take that one home. But our bad beat pool is another exciting one, and it almost hit in week one. James with the 167 to 159 loss to Stu. He needed less than 5 more points to take home the bad beat. It would have been a little bit of a silver lining. However, he just didn't quite get it. A Debo touchdown, as he was screaming for in the chat, would have at least, if not got the victory for him, it would have at least ensured the bad beat. But alas, the bad beat jackpot continues to grow. We are getting closer to $200 total on that bad boy. Our TD and loser pool picks, well, the following teams in the touchdown pool have been eliminated. Banditos, Caleb Williams did not score. You are out. Ev, Bijan did not. You are out. Hildy, how did St. Brown not score? You are out. James, Rashad White, no dice. Out. BK Whoppers, CeeDee Lamb, no touchdown week one. Yikes, you're out. Captains, Najee let us down. Yep, guess what? Captains are out. And Italian Stallions taking Bijan as well. Yikes, 2 with 1 player for the TD pool. Congrats to the rest of you. We have 5 teams still in it. Hope your picks are in. Loser pool, well, a lot of people thought New England would take the L. Banditos, White Russians, and working from Mahomes all got New England. You guys are out. See you later. BK Whoppers, the only other incorrect pick, had KC to lose. Patrick Mahomes does not lose. 5 teams gone from the loser pool. Good luck this week, everybody. And now time for a quick recap of our waiver wire. Well, he did it, folks. White Russian, after about 7 preemptive claims for Zach Ertz, well, he got his man a $60 scoop. Zach Ertz, Washington's tight end, now on the White Russians. The one of the best steals was Chris Boswell, the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, going to the captains for 60. We'll see if McManus gets reinstated, but for now, we needed a replacement for the can't drop kicker that no longer has a team. So Chris Boswell, welcome to the captains. Nav spending up for Alan Lazard, getting rid of Sam Ellinger in the process. Stu and the Stallions coming in, picking up Antonio Gibson for 55, Gronk's Demarcus Robinson for 50. And that rounded out the waiver process. Again, just a reminder, guys, if you are doing the add drop system, the drop will always take place first. And then the add, you have to have room to pick someone up. You cannot designate directly from waivers to IR. Just keep the roster requirements in mind. We had a cap problem. It was immediately fixed, and any incorrect waivers that were processed were instantly reversed. We are back at it. Get your waivers in. Waivers will continue to run Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. So for game times, if you do need some backups, don't forget, waivers are not just a 1-week thing. Let's spend a little more money too. I know nobody has much, but 50, 60, the highest that we spent this week. Come on, boys, start shelling out. Well, one more segment before we get into the fantasy preview, and we're going to bring back the commish locks. Again, an unreal amount of betting going on within the league, but I saw everyone was pretty thirsty for the Buffalo-Miami game this evening. And hopefully we can get this out in time, but I want this on record in case you don't hear this before the Thursday night game. Josh Allen is our pick versus Miami. The commish locked line over 275 passing yards and not 1.5, over 2 touchdowns. That is right. Take the over on 2. Josh Allen going to go over 275, over 2 full touchdowns. Commish lock it in, get your bets in if there's still time, and we'll see you with a few more bucks in the pocket next week. Now, into our fantasy preview. And now the moment everybody's been waiting for. It is time for our week 2 fantasy preview. Getting into some cross-divisional games. Couple candidates for game of the week, but unfortunately I just couldn't bring myself to put Stu in the game of the week for back-to-back weeks. So I went with another good one, and this is both rebounding teams. We got the Gronks taking on the White Russians. And again, both teams really let down from some poor performances and poor bench management, if I might say so, but look for them to rebound. As it stands right now, Gronks are 9-point favorites, 140.59 to 130.78. Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray up against Geno Smith and Deshaun Watts under the towel. He needs a big game because there was some news this week that he'd rather have people forget about. And I do think that Geno and company, as well as Deshaun and Cleveland, are going to be enough to overcome Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. That's right. I'm going with another underdog in the game of the week. White Russian rebounding to beat the Gronks. This is a strong pick because the Gronks still have James Cook, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Tyreek Hill. But we're going to get some points from DK Metcalf. We're going to get some points from Ramondre and a big game from Najee Harris and the Steelers. You heard it here first. And if I'm wrong, I will personally apologize to the Gronks and issue a statement that they are back on track for this year. We'll have to find out after week 2. It's your game of the week, White Russian and the Gronks. White Russian overcoming a 9-point deficit to take this one. Next up on the schedule, we have another good matchup. It's BK Whopper and Nav. Let's get the family formalities out of the way and let the football do the talking. A couple of teams coming off the high of a week 1 win. As it stands right now in a Superflex league, we're going with one quarterback. That is Josh Allen. And BK Whopper choosing to throw Zeke into that second flex spot. We'll see if that pays off. Right now, currently 15.5-point underdogs to Nav. Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey. On paper, A.J. Brown, let's not forget him. On paper, another strong lineup. Nav just eked out a win last week, but I don't know that BK Whopper can overcome the injuries this week. I do think Nav gets off to the 2-0 start that he was hoping for, if not maybe in the fashion he envisioned, and BK Whopper back down to earth with a 500 record after week 2. Now, anything can happen, but look for Nav to keep that 15-point margin of victory right through the week. Moving on to James taking on working from Mahomes. Mitch eking out the victory last week. James narrowly losing. We talked about almost hitting that bad beat in the process, but I think there'll be a bounce back here. On paper, am I reading that right? 30-point favorites, James? Oh, Mitch. I get J.K. Dobbins is projected low, and he's probably going to score more than 5 points. But, I mean, what's going on? Where are we going to get these points from? Dak, AR, King Henry, Kamara, Rashad White, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Dalton Kincaid. There's no chance. Sorry, Mitch. Mahomes can do Mahomes things. And, your running backs, Drake London might have a big game. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think the 30 points is enough. James gets the ship righted with a victory here. Look for this to be the largest margin of victory across the Dynasty League this week. James takes it over working from Mahomes. Next, Italian Stallions and Banditos. Italian Stallions coming in after putting up a league high points last week and hopefully can continue to roll against Banditos. Stafford looks to put up another good performance. Tua likely to repeat as well against what should be a high-scoring game against Buffalo. That means HN hopefully can play and be involved too. Can Barkley keep Stu in the victory column again? If not, maybe Joe Mixon, a couple of surprise running back performances from last week. I think it comes down to Michael Pittman and Garrett Wilson. If they can put up any kind of points as projected, then Stu should be on the way to an easy victory. Take those 10 points on paper and book it. Banditos, Goff should put up some points again this week, but I don't know that the likes of Zach Moss, Zay Flowers, and Rashid Shaheed, even though you got Jefferson and Lamb, and they'll probably go off this week, I think the 10-point gap is probably accurate, and look for Stu and the Stallions to go 2-0. Second last is Ev defeating Hanging with Hernandez. As of right now, it's 50-point spread. Joe Burrow might put up some points, but that is about it. Don't forget about Sam Laporta. A couple of good pieces there, guys, but just a couple. Jaden Daniels hopefully goes off again against the Giants, and Bijan should bounce back. We'll see if Kelsey can give Ev some points, but guess what? It doesn't matter because he's already got the victory. Ev goes to 2-0, Hanging with Hernandez 0-2. We won't be spending a lot of time on their games this year. But another one, you're going to see this a lot this year. Hanging Fernandez actually has a 2-0 record against Ev all time. That's about to change. Lastly, I thought about making this the game of the week. Again, it is one of the closest matchups, but we'll have our own little victory lap if it does happen. Hildy taking on the captains, and as of right now, the captains, yes, that's right, the captains, the playoff hopeful captains, are a 3.5-point favorite. Justin Fields is going to get the start again. Not expecting 42 points from Baker, but Baker and Fields enough to take on the tandem of Caleb Williams and Justin Herbert. I had Herbert for too long, Hildy. You will soon know the pain of what could have been. The running back rooms, not much of a matchup here. I think Brian Robinson, and let's hope for a bounce back against Sherwood Park's own Chuba Hubbard. DeAndre Swift, well, that might have been a bad pick, but if the Bears offense gets rolling, I am still comfortable with it. We know Nico is good. Rashee Rice is amazing, and Devontae Smith going to have a bounce-back game this week. If Brock Bowers can get a little bit of momentum going, I could see Hildy coming back, but I'm not going to bet against myself. Captains over Hildy. Let's take the 4 points and run with it. Just hope not another kicker week this week. All right, guys, that'll do it. That's the preview in the books. That is the week 2 pod in the books. Hope you enjoyed this one. I am trying to keep them under 30 minutes, but there's a lot of content to go through in the best Dynasty League in the world. But enjoy the games. Good luck this week, and I'll see you next week on the CFL Dynasty League podcast. Amish out.